Hi everyone, my name is Wagmi Wibhawith, and I recently completed my animated short film, The Judas Mark. And today I'll walk you through my process from inspiration to production, and especially how Reallusion's character creator and iClone helped me tremendously in the production of this short film. So this film is a dark, atmospheric exploration that treats betrayal as the ultimate unforgivable sin. This entire concept sort of revolves around this profound question of what happens when neither heaven nor hell can claim a soul. So the story follows the protagonist's soul as he travels through this vast limbo-like environment where his ultimate judgment would take place. Through the initial section of the film, we are introduced to the system of judgment in this courtroom, which is that when a soul steps up, the sins that they have committed would light up through these statues that represent the 7 deadly sins. And I have incorporated an extra statue, which is disloyalty, making it the 8 deadly sins. So to cut right to the end, the climax of the film is basically the protagonist stepping up, and none of the statues light up except for disloyalty. And instead of being sent either up or down, the main soul is sent back to wherever he came from. So ultimately, he is rejected by both heaven and hell because of the grim, grayish nature of the sin disloyalty. The film uses a mix of first-person POV as well as cinematic third-person shots. So this duality sort of forces the viewer to become simultaneously the victim and the witness to what's going on in the courtroom. It basically makes you ask, is disloyalty deserving of a punishment like that? So the conceptual depth of the Judas Mark relies heavily on synthesizing theological and philosophical research. The premise hinges on the idea that disloyalty is a uniquely destructive sin, so one that can essentially disrupt and tear apart relationships and trust. Starting off from the title itself, which is heavily grounded in theological roots. The title, The Judas Mark, is inspired by the biblical stories of Judas Iscariot as well as Cain. It symbolizes a permanent mark of transgression and not necessarily an immediate punishment, but to ensure that the individual basically lives with the inescapable burden of their actions. So I've essentially taken the story of Judas and how he betrayed Jesus, and taken the mark of Cain and how Cain murdered his brother Abel, and sort of mixed it together to form the Judas Mark. So my research into Dante's Inferno was pivotal, as Dante himself places treachery, betrayal, disloyalty in the deepest, darkest parts of hell. So writers like Franz Kafka especially informed this feeling of helplessness and isolation when facing with an inscrutable system. So my character is caught in this system of judgment that is akin to Albert Camus' absurdism and Nietzsche's nihilism. So this extensive research into philosophical and theological ideology really helped to ground the sins, and especially the courtroom, as a very real sort of place. Moving on to the production aspects, I made this film entirely on Blender 3D, especially for its amazing ray-traced cycles engine, as well as its robust toolset. And for the character aspect, especially having 8 sins and the main character, this is where Reallusion's character creator and iClone really came in handy. So for the 8 deadly sins, the main hurdle was sort of compiling them into this composed, painting-like composition, telling a story within the characters and how they're behaving and interacting with each other. So how I initiated the concepting phase was with the help of my friends. So we kind of acted out these symbolic poses and composed this sort of overarching narrative within the sculptures itself. I used these photos that I took and put them into Photoshop, where I manipulated them, added assets, and sort of used photo bashing to make them into a composed, complete image that I can use as a guideline to help me design it in 3D. So especially with a project that I have to finish within 1 year, so I have 2 semesters for pre-production and then production, this is where Reallusion's character creator just absolutely blew my mind. What would have taken usually months of sculpting and modeling was made really easy, and it allowed me to focus a lot more on the creative direction and the story than the technical aspects. I had a lot of bold and very risky ideas for the different body types and the kind of stories that I wanted to tell with these sins. And Reallusion's morphing sliders really helped me achieve this with a wide range of different body types that you can achieve. So this really helped me capture the essence of these sins, like the very nuanced, masculine yet feminine body of wrath to the extremely gaunt form of greed, all while providing fully rigged meshes with great topology that you can insert into any 3D software. So I used Reallusion's character creator to capture these very detailed ideas that I had in my head. They were quite risky, and yet Reallusion was very easy to use and just allowed me to get what I had in my mind onto the software. It provided me with fully rigged meshes with amazing topology that I could kind of tweak in Blender itself after I exported. So after modeling the character using the morphing sliders in Character Creator, it allowed me to pose directly inside the software itself so that I wouldn't have to export and then do the posing in Blender. So I could sort of get this very realistic movements in the hands as well as just the dynamic posing that I wanted in the characters straight inside the Character Creator software. The facial posing and the body posing came in really handy in this stage, especially because I had to go through so many characters and it was such an easy and quick process. So I exported using Character Creator's data link add-on for Blender, where you can seamlessly just export directly to the software. You don't need to mess around with different file types and adding so much bloat. So it just instantly transfers it from the Character Creator interface directly into my Blender scene. It just built this seamless bridge between softwares that saved me tons of time, especially when I'm working with so many characters and have to do this repetitively for like 8 or 9 different characters. So after exporting it from Character Creator, that's where I lit the scene, textured all my characters, and also tweaked a few of the poses using the built-in rig that comes with the Character Creator mesh. Some characters more than the others needed a bit more work in the 3D software itself. Like Pride, who is seen holding his own head in his hands. So to do that, I had to remove the heads separately in Blender and use the built-in finger bones to kind of tweak it to make him hold his own head. And also disloyal his dagger and the noose that he's holding, as well as Envy's snakes. So moving on to the motion and facial capture, since my film doesn't have any dialogue, it was crucial that I could tell the story just through facial cues and the body language of the character. So for the motion capture, I was sponsored by Quickmagic AI's video to motion capture software, and that greatly increased the realism in the movement of the protagonist and the soul that you see go before him. I didn't want a story like this to be bogged down by very unrealistic looking animations, especially because of how time-consuming keyframe animation is. I wanted to solely focus on the narrative aspect and how I can sort of complement the narrative design using the actions and performance of the characters. So for the facial capture, I used iClone's facial capture system, paired with my iPhone to capture my own raw, real-time expressions of shock and panic. And then this was immediately applied to the protagonists in the Character Creator 4 character rig. So all I had to do was just seamlessly integrate Character Creator and iClone using the data link between the two softwares. And I could instantly apply the animations I got from Quickmagic as well as the animations from the facial capture. And this really gave me the realism that I desperately needed to sell these characters as real people, especially in the elevator scene. So for the cleanup, I used a mix of iClone and Blender to clean up the motion capture as well as the facial capture data. And I had to go in and keyframe animate some parts because with all motion capture, you kind of have to do a sort of cleanup that goes along with it, especially when you have video to motion capture, where sometimes the perspectives could be off. So that was a sort of hurdle that I had to get across doing keyframe animation for specific scenes. So coming to a conclusion, completing a project with such complexity in the span of 1 year was not something that I thought I could do, but especially using Reallusion softwares, it was crazy to me how these softwares were able to cut so many corners without losing any of its quality. I would have had to kind of spend weeks or maybe even months on modeling, on sculpting, and it just took all of that nonsense away and helped me focus specifically on the narrative and story that I wanted to tell. The quality and the immense speed that is provided by Reallusion's Character Creator and iClone is just unmatched in the industry, especially for instant character creation, and how seamlessly it's integrated into such a wide array of 3D softwares, and in my case, Blender 3D. I once again want to thank Reallusion for their sponsorship and their support of independent creators like myself. You can watch the full film, The Judas Mark, on YouTube, and maybe check out the production blog that outlines all the details and the effort that went into producing this film, from pre-production to production to final delivery. And thank you.